Boom. So let me introduce myself. I consider myself a thinking catalyst. I do consulting, but being a thinking catalyst means that I don't have answers. I have questions, and I ask the questions to my clients that they didn't think to ask, didn't know to ask, or were afraid to ask. And most of the time, the answers are in the organization if you just ask the right questions. And if they're not, we'll quickly find out where to go get those. For example, I recently helped a client think through a question that a lot of businesses are facing right now, which is, how do I reopen effectively? I also teach and coach in the use of these techniques. So we'll just talk a little bit more about what those are. And I guess before I do that, before I switch the screen, I want to say that I completely agree with Bob around you need to have a plan first before you can say, what am I going to do differently? I only met him last week, and it was like we were from the same company in terms of mindset. So what he's talking about and what I talk about go together like this. So you need to have good plans, and then you can make good reactions to those plans. So let's talk a little bit about some of the basics of deliberate thinking. All right, some basics. I think, therefore I am, or cogito ergo sum, which is the Latin. And that's what René Descartes used as a way to prove his existence. We think all the time, and as a result, sometimes it's I am, therefore I think. And Homo sapiens translates into the term wise man. And we are pretty wise most of the time. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky came up with the idea that we have two different thinking approaches. System one works with the rules. If I see something, then I react to it. System two thinking works when we don't have rules. Right now, COVID is a situation where we don't have rules. The last time we had a pandemic was 1918. I'm pretty sure most of us work for companies that didn't even exist then. So, we can't remember what was going on, and we can't apply that. And certainly our global environment has made things much, much different. Now let's take a look at how System 1 works around using those rules. So System 1 thinking says, if I see this set of conditions, then I will take this action. And when we're talking about that, what we mean is, say you're driving in your car, brake lights go on in the car in front of you, you automatically hit your brakes. System 1 thinking keeps us alive. We don't go through the process of, brake lights, I wonder what those do. Or, gee, I wonder why they're braking. We hit the brakes because that's the way we survive. So it's a really good tool for us to have System 1 thinking in our pocket. The first polling question, which is, we usually have good rules when we have lots of data points. And there's not a correct answer here. I just want to see what people's response is, okay? So for some people, the rule is that when revenue is down, I'll increase advertising and promotion. And some of you are in a position where you can raise prices. And both of those are acceptable rules depending on the business you're in. We have those kind of rules, and we use them all the time. However, now, let's look at what happens in the real world. Okay, the ideal issue landscape has two components, the solution information and the situation information. And when it's clear, all good, because we can use this rule. If we see X, then we'll do Y. We have a very good rule-based approach. System 1 thinking works all the time. Fantastic. System 1 thinking is also called automatic thinking. Now notice it says it's the ideal issue landscape, because in the real world, we also have unclear situations and unclear solutions. In this case, in the bottom left-hand quadrant, we still do have that rule-based arena. That's great. But we also have situations where we have clear information on the situation, but we don't know what the solution would be. For example, if a business needs to select a vendor for a brand new raw material, they don't have any prior experience, they're going to have to use a different thinking approach for that situation. Let's look at a polling question to understand our role in this arena. So what we have in this real world is, in the real world, people have different rules for that upper left-hand quadrant, but they need to solve for the question marks of need to select a good solution. In the bottom right quadrant. That's where we're unclear of the situation, but we might have solutions. So if revenue were down, we might decide we got to figure out, is it just one customer that's dropping our revenue, or are all of our customers going to a different supplier? In which case we have different options of how we solve. And the place where we're spending a lot of time is where we have unclear situation information and unclear solution information in the upper right. Now, when we see a diagram like this, our tendency is to draw in nice straight lines and do a 2x2 block, and everything is great. However, in the real world, it's not as clear. What we have is a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty. And when that happens, our rule-based areas aren't as clean, nor are the other quadrants. So what we want to do is make sure that we're asking really good questions to deal with that ambiguity and uncertainty. And a way to summarize this is that we have that bottom left-hand quadrant where the automatic thinking kicks in. Then we also have an area for deliberate thinking, and notice that that boundary becomes less sharp. That's the thing that we have to deal with the most, where if we try to match a pattern and we're wrong, we'll have more problems associated with it. With deliberate thinking, what we have is it's a question-based approach that allows us to gain more understanding of the situation, create solutions that address the situation and don't make it worse, and reflect on the thinking process at the end. And that's something that people might call an after-action review. It also can be just a reflection, because that's how we get smarter. That's how we learn. We learn best actually when we make mistakes with stress. So when we learn to walk, we figure out it hurts when we fall down. And so we find ways so we keep standing up and not falling down. And that's what we're looking to do. That's pretty much the end of what I wanted to present. And I think we want to open it up for questioning to both Bob and me.
We do have a question came in to me privately on the chat, which is,